You're listening to The Money Hour with your host, Tina Mitchell, and co-host, Keelan Harvey on Alternative Talk, AM 1150. Now, back to the show with local mortgage experts, Tina Mitchell and Keelan Harvey.
You are listening to The Money Hour on 1150 AM KKNW, the Saturday, May 29th show. You can also catch us on our podcast, Facebook premiere show, or our show on our YouTube channel. I am your host, Tina Mitchell.
And I'm your co-host, Keelan Harvey.
We bring into studio each week the best of the best experts in our local market that has to do with your money. We are here to help you build a strong financial blueprint. And now in studio, we have Bill Cohen, or still in studio, Caregiving Support Consultants, LLC, managing dementia care, behaviors, and practicing self-care, right here on 1150 AM KKNW. Bill, thank you again for being here.
Excited to be here.
So let's dive right into this, Bill. So why did you become a caregiver support consultant? And did you ever imagine that you would be a caregiver yourself and then volunteer and advise other caregivers to give that gift that you learned in depth about to others?
I think I spoke about that a little bit before. There's no way I would have foreseen, one, that my mom would have gotten dementia and Alzheimer's particularly. How could I predict she would lose her home in a devastating storm and become a volunteer? And what I'm doing now, it's unfathomable. But it's like my previous work. Everything I did led to this. Like we talked about in the bio, government experience, financial services. The common thread running through all it is customer service and helping people. And that's the main thing why I'm doing what I'm doing, is to help as many people as possible, keep active, and help them in the way that I needed when I started my journey 16 plus years ago. Somebody like me didn't exist. So to be able to find a venue, an avenue, a path as a caregiving support consultant, as well as my volunteer work, et cetera, it's extremely gratifying.
Yeah, beautiful thing. And we've talked about uniqueness in your own business. Obviously, your story is unique, and the expertise that you have in the other arenas, like you mentioned, government and finances, definitely help you level up in what you're doing today. So, Bill, when did you first become concerned about your mom's symptoms?
Yeah, good question. I'd say it was about 2004, and we were seeing things like confusion, anxiety, a little bit of memory loss, that type of thing. Definitely not handling the finances the way she used to. And she, besides being a professional printmaker, artist, she was a whiz on a Mac back in the 80s. When she was in her 60s, she was using a Mac computer, which is pretty unusual back then. And so when she wasn't able to handle the finances, including the taxes, and wasn't keeping the house clean, we knew something was definitely wrong, but we didn't know what. And she was in the caregiver role for my late stepfather. And we were thinking, well, if he passed away because he was on hospice or went into a care facility, would she bounce back? Well, again, because of Hurricane Katrina, we never got a chance to find out. And needless to say, the trauma of losing a home that she fully expected to come back to exacerbated and accelerated her condition. We didn't know for sure it was Alzheimer's yet, but very soon after we knew some kind of dementia, no question.
Well, we know that stress definitely is a cause of, having those symptoms come on much quicker and much stronger.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Right.
Yeah, unfortunately, I had a couple Oh, go ahead. Sorry, Bill.
No, I was just going to say, the Alzheimer's Association has a very handy list of 10 reasons, the main symptoms to be watching for, and it's available at alz.org. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I remember a very impactful moment with my grandfather. We went to Black Angus and Federal Way, and he drove us there, and he copped out and he said, "Where am I?" And that was the first kind of introduction that I got to that. And I was kind of young and ignorant at the time, but I got to experience that and the care that he got from there.
And Dave's mom, Keelan, she was walking her dog and she couldn't find her way home. And if it weren't for Seiko, she wouldn't have gotten home. That was our first.
Yeah. Was he getting honked at a lot too?
What was that?
Was he getting honked at a lot too?
Um, yeah.
Was it see scratches and dents on the car? Those are some other
Yeah.
signs.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. Well, and I'm curious, Bill, what is the difference between, and I'm sure a lot of people are confused about this, between Alzheimer's and dementia?
Just like John has his FAQ, that's probably the first one usually people ask. Think in terms of cancer is the umbrella term for different kinds of cancer, like lung, breast, pancreatic, whatever. Dementia is the umbrella term. Alzheimer's is one kind. Some of the other more frequent ones, frontal temporal, vascular, etc. But Alzheimer's is unfortunately the most prevalent, something like give or take 2/3 of the cases. And it's again, there's no cure or treatment. It's expensive, and it's just devastating what a progressive disease it is as everything just starts shutting down over a period of time.
So Bill, you've already provided one resource. Thank you so much. Where are there other resources that our listeners, and how can they find them?
The Alzheimer's Association is excellent. You're, of course, very close to BC and Canada, and they have there's the Alzheimer's Network as well. There are so many good organizations around your area, like the South End Coalition, I believe the name is, various senior groups that provide resources to people. What I like to say though is that I don't compete with anyone. Sorry, John, it's not my issue. Mine is people finding me. but I collaborate with everyone. There are all these different segments of the journey: the home care, the elder law attorney, finding housing, among other things. But I don't just concentrate on one. I concentrate on all of them. That's why I'm a certified senior advisor. It's a broader perspective. It's a holistic approach. We cover everything. And that goes back to what we talked about with the financial background, because most of the people who have this designation, this certification, are in the financial area, because it is so important to not just appropriate recommendations, but also prevent fraud, abuse, predatory, which is a whole nother subject. They're our most vulnerable segment.
Bill, that is huge. I mean, I was a financial advisor before, and you're selling a product. That's kind of the intention, possibly. I would say that most have the best intention in mind, but maybe not have a broader understanding of all the moving parts that need to be intertwined through this process, and intricately and with experience that you could provide to these individuals. Without that intention behind it, you have only the best interest of your customer, which is huge for them and could actually save them a ton of money. Mm-hmm. So with that being said, I actually have a threefer for you at this point, because I know everybody's thinking it. So who is your ideal client, and when do you think they should contact you? Mm-hmm. And how do you help families? And the last, the famous one, is how do you get paid?
No problem. And I'm going to make one quick back to CSA. That's when I'm looking for people for resources across the country, I'm looking for other CSAs, because they do have those credentials. So I've helped anybody from in their 20s for a mother who had early onset Alzheimer's, of course, in like their 80s and 90s for their spouses. But the typical customer, or the typical client, 35 to 65, adult children, mostly women. There are more and more men who are becoming caregivers as well, but it is still a women's issue in terms of the caregivers, the care recipients, and the professionals. But they are looking for those, they're seeing those first signs in their loved one, like I saw with my mom, and they don't know where to turn. And that's where I can come in, especially early on, because they don't know the resources. You do, like us down in the Portland area, we have a resource like Retirement Connection. And I should have mentioned that as a resource as well, retirementconnection.com, the directories, that there are so many good people to find resources. But how do you know who's the best person to work with? And so I also do vetting. I do research to find out who are the best professionals for my clients. And like most professionals like yourselves, including John, I ask a lot of questions, do a lot of listening, and find out what are their main stressors? What do they need taken off their plate so they can sleep better at night? And once that's determined, how many hours they're going to need, et cetera, generally I work on a monthly basis, which gives them several hours of support and other features. But I can work with other options. If it's a short-term thing, it could be a couple of hours. So it just depends how they want to operate, about how complicated it is, how ongoing, how long distance. And again, I can help people all over the country.
Yeah. And so, Bill, what are some great tips for managing behaviors?
Patience. Don't feel guilty. Remember that you are doing the best you can. That don't try to argue with them, because you will never win, ever. That if they could correct themselves, if they could fix it, they would. Certainly nobody asks for dementia. And sometimes if they're acting like with the outbursts and the mood swings and the repeated questions, sometimes one, you don't have to necessarily respond, or have some answers ready, like the repeated questions. Use improv. I did that with my mom with movies. She always wanted to know, any good movies out there. And I say, whatever movie popped in my head, Titanic, Casablanca, didn't matter, because she was getting an answer. I was keeping my sanity, and I had a little laugh inside my mom's expense.
Yeah, and that compassion too. I think one of the hardest times is just in the very beginning, when they completely understand what's going on. And with my husband's mom, she'd be so frustrated. I said, "Mom, it happens to me all the time. I'm always," so just come to their place and where they're at, and be as compassionate in that process as you can, right?
And empathy.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Bill, we are out of time, but I wanted to leave you with this. How can our listeners get in contact with you?
So my website is CohenCaregivingSupport.com. Up there on the screen behind me. Of course, my phone number is 503-522-8320. And my email is very similar to my website, bill@CohenCaregivingSupport.com.
Bill, thank you so much for joining the show. And again, thank you, John, for being here.